One of the eternal questions a lot of people ask, and there really isn't an answer to this question, is how could a loving God allow his children to suffer? How could he allow pain and suffering to his own children? I remember when we lost our son Mark, that question was raised in my own mind when I thought, well, I am your child. You are my heavenly Father. And I, being a father, would never do this to my children. Now, in raising that sort of a question, we are already acknowledging that God is sovereign even over death, even over those painful experiences that you and I have just about every day of our lives. And so the broader question becomes, how could this loving God allow pain and suffering and evil to take place? Couldn't he just wipe it out? Couldn't he just terminate it? Couldn't he just end it? You know, I'm fascinated by the book of Job. In fact, whenever we suffer, we always tend to go back to the book of Job. But it's interesting that Job did not have the book of Job to consult. He was living it. And as he is experiencing these incredible, horrific sufferings, as he is going through physical and emotional pain, as he loses 10 children, all of his wealth, and he loses his health with this horrible disease called elephantiasis, where he's sitting on a scrap pile, scraping the wounds, scraping the scabs off of the wounds of his body. Even his own wife said to him, Job, why don't you just curse God and die? I am sure Job woke up every morning in that horrific pain, asking the same question. How could my loving Father, how could my heavenly Father allow such pain and evil, especially to me, the one God himself called a righteous man? Well, when you look at the book of Job, one of the things that impresses me when I see this passage is this. It says, now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came among them. Now the Lord said to Satan, from where have you come? Satan answered the Lord and said, from going to and fro on the earth and from walking up and down on it. And the Lord said to Satan, listen to this, have you considered my servant Job, that there is none like him on earth, a blameless and upright man who fears God and turns away from evil? Isn't that interesting? God asks Satan to consider leveling whatever he wanted to level, whatever he was looking for as he's roaming the earth to and fro. He says, consider my servant Job. Now, Job did not know that. He did not know that behind the scenes there was this incredible invisible war going on. And so Satan answers the Lord. He says this. He says, does Job fear God for no reason? Have you not put a hedge around him and his house, and all that he has on every side? You have blessed the work of his hands, and his possessions have increased in the land. Haven't you blessed Job? Don't you have this hedge of protection? Don't you have a wall around him? How can I penetrate that wall that you have put up? But then Satan says this, but stretch out your hand and touch all that he has, and he will curse you to your face. Satan, in other words, says, take away all of his pleasures. Take away all those things that causes him to feel blessed. His children, his health, his wealth. Take that all away, and he will curse you to your face. And so God removes that hedge of protection. Now, Job does not know any of this is going on. He does not know that behind the scenes there is this incredible story being put together, this incredible testimony that for generations, for millennia, all of us would be blessed by the story of Job and his faithfulness in the light of suffering. Now, as the story goes on, Job is even tested by his own friends. His friends sat by him quietly and ministered to him for days, and that was good. But then they began to open their mouths and question everything that Job believed, and even question his moral character. to give some sort of reason, some sort of logic for this suffering. And isn't that what we want? We want a reason. We want logic. We want somebody to tell us this is why this is happening to you. And inevitably we find that that cannot happen. That oftentimes the story is being told and something is going on behind the scenes that we cannot possibly comprehend, because God is painting this amazing mosaic. Now let me put it to you this way. Edith Schaeffer, the wife of one of the most famous theologians of the 20th century, Francis Schaeffer, wrote a book called Affliction. And in that book, she portrays this thing of suffering, this question or this uncertainty of suffering in this way. She says you need to view life from the perspective of a mosaic, a tapestry, if you will. And as you sit here on the earth, you are looking up at that tapestry. You're seeing only the underside of the tapestry. All you see are the strings hanging down. All you see are the different colors, but none of it makes any sense. It's only when you rise above the tapestry, it's only when you rise above and change the perspective and change the angle and look down on the tapestry that you see that God has been painting this beautiful mosaic all along, something you could not see from this earthly perspective. And that really, friends, is how we answer the question of suffering. That is how we answer the question of why is God allowing this to happen. For some of us, He will explain it in this life, but for most of us, the perspective has to change. We have to begin to view life not from the underside of the tapestry, but from the perspective of looking down after God shows us how all these wonderful pieces fit together, just like He did with Job. So I am sure that Satan has appeared before God in your life, and God has said to him, have you considered my servant? You put your name in there, because God will give you the grace. He will give you the power to overcome, even if you don't understand all that is taking place. I hope that is an encouragement to you.